Hey guys, today we will read chapter 8 from the Hetty Feather book. And it's a long journey, right? We have reached 8 days and 8 chapters. But just to remind you, we still have a very long journey because this book is nearly 400 pages. It's really long and there are a lot of chapters, and each chapter is Hetty's journey. So let's find out about those chapters. But first, let's review about the chapter 7s a little bit. So did they find Gideon? Of course they did. He fell from the squirrel's tree, from the squirrel's house, and ever since, he didn't speak ever since. Poor him, right? And about Hetty, she is on her way to find her true mother, Madame Adeline, which is the woman at the circus. And she thought Madame Adeline is her real mother. So, is she Hetty's real mother? We still don't know. And will Hetty come back home? We'll find out all about them in chapter 8 as soon as possible. But first, I gotta drink some water before reading this very long chapter. Let's get right into it. Chapter 8. I trudged all the way back home again. So she finally learned her lesson and she come back home by herself. What else could I do? I didn't know when the circus had gone. If they'd packed up and traveled all night after the show, they could now be many miles north, south, east, west. And I was too small and scared to run any further. I was freezing cold in spite of my sack. My nightgown was soaked through and stained all over with mud when I stumbled, and Gideon's boots seemed intent on paring every inch of flesh from my feet. I trailed all the way back to the cottage, and as I hobbled homewards, I did think with satisfaction that they'll maybe make a fuss of me now. I must have been missing for hours. I thought of the to-do when Father returned with Gideon in his arms. I hoped for just rejoicing when I limped through the front door. Mother would cast Gideon aside and swoop me into her arms. Nat would clap his hands. Rosie and Eliza would kiss and pinch my cheeks, and Jem. I gave a genuine little groan as I thought of dear Jem. How could I have left him without saying a single word or farewell? He would be heartbroken. He might be running crazily around the village this very minute, calling for me, striding through the woods, wading through mud and mire, calling my name until his voice cracked. I could picture him so vividly, but I can always picture the banal truth. Jem wasn't out searching for me frantically. Jem was fast asleep in his bed, not having missed me for one moment. None of the family were aware that I had run away to join the circus. They were all still in their beds, snoring. Even baby Eliza was fast asleep in her cot, though it was past her feeding time. I thought I'd change the world, but no one had noticed. I got into trouble with Mom later because of the state of my nightgown, but she was too distracted with Gideon to concentrate on giving me a paddling. Gideon did not get properly better. He warmed up. He ate and drank. He walked around in his uncomfortable boots. He did his few chores, but he seemed like a ghost child now. If I jumped up at him and went boo, he would cower away from me and cry. Even though he could see it was only me, he could still laugh just about. Though I labored long and hard at this, I pulled faces, I tickled him, I said silly rude things. I stood on my hands and waved my legs in the air so he could see my drawers. And yes, Gideon's nose might crinkle. His mouth twitched into a tiny smile, but he didn't talk anymore. He'd always been a quiet child. Well, any child living with me would seem silent by comparison, but now he didn't talk at all. Mother coaxed him. Father badgered him. The big girls petted him. Nat and Jem tried tricking him, and I certainly plagued him, but he stayed resolutely silent. I could offer him some trinket that I knew he really coveted, perhaps a glass bead as blue as the sky. I'll put it on the table in front of him and say, "Do you like this bead I found, Gideon?" He'd nod. "Would you like it?" He'd nod more eagerly. "Well, all you have to do is say, 'Please may I have the bead, Hetty?' and it is yours." Gideon's head drooped. "Come on, Gid, it's easy. You can say it. You know you can. You don't even have to say please. Can I have the bead? That's all you have to say." Gideon's head dropped further. I took hold of his jaw and tried to make his lips mouth the words. No sound came out, though tears started to roll down his cheeks. "Are you hurting Gideon, Hetty?" said Mother, bustling into the room. No, Mother. I'd simply encouraging him to speak," I said. Mother paused, diverted by my quaint speech. "You're a caution, Hetty. I've never known a child like you. I don't know what to become of you or Giddy either." She suddenly sank to her knees and opened her arms wide, hugging both of us to her bosom. I cuddled up close to Mother. She might not have the starry glamour of Madame Adeline. She might be rough with her tongue. She might paddle me hard for my naughtiness, but she was the only mother I've known, and I still love her dearly. "Don't send us to the hospital, Mother," I begged. She started, as if I'd read her mind. "I wish I could keep you, Hetty," she said, looking straight into my eyes. "I can't bear to let you go, and it breaks my heart to think of little Gideon there, especially not when he's not quite himself." I giggled guiltily. "You will look after your brother when you're at the hospital, Hetty," Mother said earnestly. "He can't really look after himself. He'll need you to speak up for him. Will you promise you'll do that, dear?" "I promise," I said, though I was shivering so I could hardly speak. "It's not as if all the children will be strangers," said Mother, perhaps trying to convince herself as well as Giddy and me. "Sal will be there, and dear little Martha. They will look out for both of you." I didn't have Mother's faith in my sister and brother. Besides, the only brother I wanted looking out for me was my own dear Jem. I started following him like a little shadow, tucking my arms in his, huddling close to him at the table, sitting on his lap. He was so patient with me, playing endless games of picturing. We were pirates. We were polar bears. We were soldiers. We were water babies. We were explorers in Africa. And the simplest and most favorite game of all, we were Hetty and Jem, growing up and living together in our own real house, happily ever after. I was used to dear Jem indulging me, but Gideon was the family favorite. They treated him now like a very special frail baby, dangling him on their knees and ruffling his dark locks. Even Father stopped trying to turn him into a little man. He hoisted him onto his huge shoulders and ran around with him, pretending to be one of his own shire horses. Gideon squealed in fear and joy, though he still didn't speak. But suddenly, I seemed to be the pet of the family too. Father took me out in the fields with him and held me tight while I rode on the shire's back. The horse was too big to be a comfortable ride, and was a simple golly-tap rotter compared to Madame Adeline's elegant performing pirate horse. But even so, I kicked my heels and held my arms out, pretending I was dressed in pink spangles in a circus ring. Nat had started whittling simple toys from pieces of wood. He fashioned me a horse and Gideon an elephant. To be truthful, the only way we could distinguish them was by size, but it was kind of my big brother all the same. Rose and Eliza were surprisingly sweet to me too, letting me play grown-up ladies in their best dresses, even tie my hair up high and fasten it with pins. We were three big girls together, and they sprayed me with their precious lavender perfume, and told me special big girl secrets. Even little Eliza seemed extra fond of me and smiled and waved her tiny fist in glee whenever I picked her up. "You're like a real little mother, Hetty," said Mother, sounding truly proud. I basked in all these praise and attention. For a child considered ultra sharp, my wits weren't working at all. It wasn't until the last night that it actually dawned on me. Rosie and Eliza sang baby song to Gideon and gave us great kisses all over our cheeks, until even my pale brother turned rosy as an apple. Nat gave us a bear hug. Father set us both on his big knees and jiggled us up and down, playing "This Is the Way the Ladies Ride." Mother made us a cup of cocoa brimming with cream, a rare treat, just 2 cups, one for Gideon and one for me. I looked over Jem. I knew he loved cream too. "Can't Jem have a cocoa too, Mother?" I asked. "No, dear, it's just for you 2 little ones," said Mother. "Now, drink it all up like a good girl, before I get you both ready for bed." I went to sit beside Jem, who had been very quiet all evening. "Take a sip, Jem," I whispered. Jem shook his head quietly. He kept his head bent, but I saw he had tears in his eye. My stomach squeezed tight. Why was Jem so sad? I saw Mother boiling up a great pan of water on the stove, hot washing water. That wasn't bath night. Then at last it dawned on me. She was going to take Gideon and me to the hospital tomorrow. I've known for years that I had to go back to the Foundling Hospital. For the past few months, folks had referred to it openly and often. I'd had myself, but it had still seemed distant, long in the future, not anything to worry about right this minute. But now, suddenly it had sprung upon me. That was it, my last night in the cottage. The sweet cocoa soured my mouth. I crept so near Jem, I was practically in his lap. He saw I realized, and put a finger to his lips, nodding at Gideon. My little brother was smiling as he sipped his cocoa. Mom pulled off his shirt and said, "Skin a rabbit," and Gideon made a funny face, twitching his nose. He was almost his old self again, though he still wasn't talking. I knew if I cried out that we were going to the hospital the very next day, Gideon would be frightened into fits, so I closed my mouth, pressing my hands over my lips to make certain I would not talk. Jem hugged me tight. "What a dear, brave girl you are, Hetty," he whispered in my ear. I didn't want to be brave. I wanted to scream and make a huge despairing fuss, but I could see that would spoil everything for Gideon, and for me too. So I held my tongue and choked down my cocoa, though I couldn't stop my tears brimming as I gazed around the little room that had been my home for the last 5 years. I could not bear to think I would never see it again. I could not bear to think I would not see Mother, Father, and my brothers and sisters. My family, I especially could not bear to think I would never see my dear Jem again. The tears rolled down my face, and I hid my head in my hands. "Look at Hetty, she's tired herself out," said Eliza. "A quick bath in the tub and then you'll be tucked up in bed, Hetty dear," said Rosie. I let my sisters undress me and lift me up into the soapy water. Mother washed me all over and rubbed the soap suds into my hair so hard that I thought the red might run away with the water. Then I was toweled vigorously, a nightgown thrust over my head, and I was carried upstairs. I kept my eyes closed all the time, even when everyone gave me a good night kiss. I was tucked up beside Gideon, who was already asleep. I lay there waiting. Then Jem crept upstairs. He got into bed beside me and put his arms round me. I buried my head in his chest and wept. There, Hetty. There, dear Hetty, he murmured. I don't want to go. I sobbed. I shall run away. Yes, I shall run away right now. Where would you run to, Hetty? I shall find the circus. I shall live with Madame Adeline. I said, perhaps she really is my mother. How would you find the circus? It could be right up in Scotland or way down in Cornwall. The circus is gone, Hetty. I'll still run away, I said, but what would you eat? Where would you live? Who will look after you? I will eat berries and nuts, and I will sleep curled up in trees and haystacks and barns. I buzzed, trying to work it out up in my head. And if you will run away too, Jem, then you can look after me. Oh, Hetty, I wish I could. I've tried to plot it out. I could maybe get farm work far away, where they don't know me, though I'm not really big or strong enough yet. And you can't work for years and years, Hetty. You could do the work for me. Yes, but they wouldn't let you tag along too. They would say you needed to be cared for. They would seize you and put you in the workhouse, and that would be much worse than a hospital. So don't you see, Hetty? You can't run away, though I wish we could with all my heart. Oh, Jem, please don't let them take me away, I wept, past reasoning. He held me close and murmured stories in my ear about my time at the hospital. Everyone will like you, Hetty. How could they not? And you will make good friends there. You will learn lots at school, and the years will go by in a blink. And then, when you are all grown up, I will come and find you, remember. We'll truly have our own house? I snuffled. Yes, our own dear house. And we'll live there together. And when I'm old man with a gray beard and you're an old lady, hopefully not with a beard, I giggled in spite of everything. Then we will scarcely remember we were ever separated. I promise we'll be together and live happily ever after, just like the fairy tales. He told me this over and over again until I went to sleep in a little soggy heap on his chest. Whenever I woke up in the night, he whispered it over again. Then suddenly Mother was shaking me, easing me out of bed. I clung frantically to Jem. There now, Hetty, he said. Let me dress her, Mother. You and get Giddy ready. Jem did his best to dress me in my best clothes, though I did not make it easy for him, keeping my arms pinned to my sides and curling my feet so they couldn't be stuffed into my boots. Stop being so difficult, Hetty dear, he said wearily. I will dress too, and come with you as far as I can. Try to be a brave girl. I didn't feel big and brave. I felt very, very small and very scared too. But I did not make a fuss as Jem fastened my Sunday frock, tied the ribbons of my starched pinafore, and buttoned my boots and washed my face. Jem brushed my hair for me, running his hand through the silky newly washed strand. At least I'll be able to pick you out from a crowd of hundreds, Hetty. No one will ever have as red hair like you. There, you look lovely now. I give him a fierce hug. Careful, you'll crease your pinafore. I hate silly pinafores, I said. Oh, how I long to be barefoot in my old flower spring cotton dress, ready for a day's larking with my dear brother. I clenched him harder, and he held me fast. Ready, children, Mother called. She had Gideon dressed now, but he was still half asleep, his eyes drooping. We went downstairs, and Mother cut us bread and poured us milk. I was too fever to eat, and Gideon too tired. I sat on Jem's lap, and Gideon sat on Mother's. It was as if we'd regressed 5 years, and we're back to being little babies. It's time to go. Gideon giggled a little, looking puzzled. Come on, my pet, let Mother carry you, she said, hoisting him up in her arms. He held his wooden elephant tight by the trunk. I had my dear old rag baby and my new horse, but I wish Jem had made it for me, and not Nat. But Jem had another gift for me, a tiny present in a twist of rag. I opened it up carefully and found a silver sixpence, polished until it shone. I stared at it in awe. I earned it in running errands. I'll earn you many more sixpences, Jem whispered earnestly. Then you'll know bigger. I can take you to the circus in style. Oh, Jem, I said. Dear, dear Jem, keep it safe in your pinafore pocket. You can spend it anything you like. I held the sixpence tight in my hand. I knew I would never be tempted to spend a penny of it. I would do my level best to hang on to it forever. Father was already out at the farm, and Nat and the girls were still asleep. Even baby Eliza was quiet in her cradle. I could not say goodbye to them, so instead I whispered goodbye to my little stool and then scrubbed the table and colored pictures on the wall. They were mostly scene from the Bible, baby Jesus in the stable, Joseph in his colored coat, and Daniel in the lion's den. The picture like Bess hung halfway up the stairs, two chubby children in the nightgown, with a tall white guardian angel, spreading his wings over them protectively. I ran up to the angel picture and said goodbye. As I turned back to Jem and Mother and Gideon, I fancy heard a bit of big twigs. I suddenly breathed in the thick air of the cottage, as if the angel had stepped right out of the picture and was arching his wings over me. I tried hard to picture him above us as we trudged down the lane towards the village. We got to the crossroad, and there was Sam wading into his horse and cart. Gideon clapped his hands, totally misunderstanding. He thought this was a special shopping day. Sam was taking us to town to buy new clothes or new boots, a new kettle or a set of china plates or a washstand, and perhaps a toffee apple or a sugar cane for us children, if we were very good. Well, the little lad doesn't seem too downhearted, Sam said, chucking him under the chin. The little missy looks mournful, though, bless her. Say goodbye to Jem now, Hetty, said Mother, lifting Gideon up into the cart. No, I said, tears spilling. I'll come on the cart with you, said Jem. Hush, Hetty, I'm coming too. You'll miss a morning school, said Mother. What school? When I can be with Hetty an hour longer, said Jem. You can't come, Jem. Sam has business in town and won't be able to take you back in the cart. Then I'll walk back, said Jem. He said it as if 7 miles was a short stroll. He sounded so firm that Mother didn't argue with him further. Jem lifted me into the cart and jumped up after me. Mother settled herself with Gideon on her lap. He reached out to me and then touched my wet cheeks. Shh, my pet, she said, as if he'd spoken. Then Sam clinked his teeth at his old brown nag, and she started strutting along the road and the hill. I could just make out our own cottage on the edge of the village. I was starting to feel sick from twisting backwards, so I wriggled around and faced towards, my head on Jem's shoulder. So now they are on their way to the Foundling Hospital. Let's see the next part. Bye!